the political leader of the National Transformation Alliance, Mr. Gary Griffith. Mr. Griffith, thank you very much for joining us on this beautiful but rainy morning in Trinidad and Tobago. Thanks again. Is he there?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
Morning to you. Well, I want to look at your party's preparedness for the next general election, of course, over the past few days, and it is something that we have been discussing. You and I have discussed it in the past, of a potential relationship with your party and the United National Congress going into the next general election. From what we saw a few days ago, and I think it came as a surprise to some because there's this picture with the various political leaders and the opposition leader, but we did not see you there. Does this mean that an end of any sort of a relationship between your party and the UNC for the next general election?
Oh, definitely not. So to all of those persons who were previous COP supporters, that 148,000 and 200,000 odd UNC supporters, let your heart not be bothered. These are very early times as it pertains to any type of strategic alliance. What I can state is that what we are doing in the NTA is to prevent a repeat of what took place in 1986 and in 2010, where there was this, just let's join together to defeat the PNM. Been there, done that. The country does not want to see 3 strikes and you're out. Those floating voters, independent voters, whatever bridge constituency, whatever you call them, previous ONR, NAR, of which Kamala Prasad-Bissessar was part of, and the COP. Those individuals, they want to see that there's something that is unified, something that has a degree of code of ethics, and to make sure that they will not be used, because that is what happened in 2010 to 2015. The UNC got 21 seats, and then the COP supporters had no representation in the running of the government. So you move from 148,000 votes in the COP in 2007 to 467 in 2020. It does not take away the value now of the COP. In fact, what we are doing now, unlike a cosmetic approach to invite people and do a photo op with Barry directing people, that is not an alliance. An alliance is what we are doing. The COP, the NTA, the HOPE, and other organizations, we have been meeting for the last several months, making sure that we can cement a foundation to ensure we can sustain ourselves in government. And that is through a proper system of a roadmap towards transformation of Trinidad and Tobago. That is how we unite the country. If you cannot unite other political parties, then you certainly can't unite a country. So that is the direction that we are going. When that happens, we can then move on to the other step. I must add quickly, the big concern that, notice Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, what she did say is that, well, Gary can't be welcome here if it is that he attacks Julie John. Well, the first thing, I don't need to be welcome. This is not an all-inclusive fit. This is mutual agreement. I need to welcome you as well. So the perception that from Kamala Prasad-Bissessar is, I will decide who I bring into the fold. That is not happening anymore. There's going to be a degree of equity. And your concern about what I said about Julian John was that I said that certain persons in the UNC are adamant that the UNC must go alone, which for the last 36 years in the existence of the UNC, they have never won an election on their own in a 3-horse race. So I said that, and that was deemed as terrible. But now you've done the exact thing that I said. So you are upset by me speaking the truth, which has been the problem with Gary Griffith throughout my life, whether I was minister or commissioner. So you're upset that I said that Julian John and others who believe UNC must go alone, they are wrong. And you're upset about that, so that I don't want to talk to Gary. But you accept someone who has said the nastiest things about yourself, your party, the most disgusting things, and it is okay to keep that person. And let me finally add on that point, what we are going to have is a code of ethics in that alliance that we are having. We are not going into that gutter politics. Let me tell you, Marlon, I have been a soldier. You know, there are politicians who believe that they want to be soldiers. They are toy soldiers. I have fought against the IRA. Bullets were flying over my head as the youngest officer during the coup. I was the first Trinidad and Tobago citizen to return with a UN peacekeeping medal, fighting to save democracy in Haiti for 6 months, living in a tent. I know what a war is. I know what it is to try to kill. But I also understand as a politician, our job is to unite. When you hear a person making a statement that after a member of parliament has died saving her children and he could shout out, they should all burn, and then criticizing and demonizing a lady, another politician, because she is grieving over the loss of her friend, and we accept that as part of an alliance, I will simply say, show me your political allies and I'll tell you who you are.
Yeah. But it is safe to say, right, that things are not necessarily good between you and Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, right? It's safe to say that?
No, not at all. It's just that I think she mentioned that we have the same direction, which is to get into government. But there may be her style of wanting to have an alliance may very well be, let me bring in people, let me have my 19 seats, I'll take all the marginals, and then I will run the government as a UNC government. My take on it is that there are that 100,000, 150,000, whatever it is in the numbers you have, divided by 41, without the representation of that bridge constituency, which is an alliance of these political parties, unions, and whatever, you cannot get in government. So work with us. Do not try to play divide and conquer. Do not, and when we get there, the UNC is going to understand that you need an alliance. You criticize me for stating that you cannot win alone and you need an alliance. And you said you're not speaking to me because of what I said. But now you have done the exact thing. So she understands the importance of an alliance. My take on it is, and this is not to attack Winston Dukaran or others, but we allowed that bridge constituency to be used. My job is to ensure that those persons who are not PNM or UNC till they die, are born at UNC and have a die at UNC, are born at PNM or a die at PNM, 200,000 on both sides live that way. Either political leader could probably shoot someone in cold blood downtown and they will still vote for them blindly. It happens with the Republicans and the Democrats. But that bridge constituency of those persons who are independent thinkers, they want to know that you have an intention, a direction to unite this country. Our alliance is one that we are not going into the gutter. We are not going into this gutter politics. We are going to show that we have the people, the policies, the programs, and the political will to transform Trinidad and Tobago. If she believes that bringing in persons to be your social media attack dog, just to say the nastiest things, to demonize others, is an avenue. I wish to advise certain persons that if you're a human being and you have an animal that you intend to use to bite persons, and that person does it, you must accept responsibility and ownership for what that person has done. So if we bring people into this alliance, that we must ensure that there's a code of ethics to ensure that the country can look and say, how you operate now in a campaign is how we expect you to operate when you're in government. You can't be in government and be saying the nastiest, most disgusting things about people, their character, their wives, their children, and expect to be part of an alliance. So we are going to demand a proper degree of code of ethics and to ensure that we focus on productivity rather than destruction.
But can you work with someone such as that, the same person that you have described?
Not at all, not at all. Certain things like that would be non-negotiable, and that is where we intend to make sure that there is a proper alliance, because the country, they do not want to go back into this gutter politics, demonizing persons, destroying. What the country wants to see is politicians and leaders that can build this country, that can have this country look to what it is supposed to be. And having persons who spend all their time attacking, destroying, demonizing, that is going to be non-negotiable. So what we intend to have is a code of ethics written that you have to adhere to this to remain part of this government, not just with not criticizing those inside, but throughout the country. And there's nothing wrong, don't get me wrong, we know politics is something where you have to have constructive criticism, but there's a difference to that, to telling a country that a woman who died saving her children, let them all burn. And we can accept that. A simple apology is not good enough. You bring in people like that into your alliance, you take ownership and responsibility. We intend to spend our time showing that we have the policies to transform not just national security, health, education, the economy. We are bringing out policies. We are not going to be spending time attacking and demonizing the PNM. The PNM is not the enemy. Get over the stupidity, right? Because again, these are civilians who are politicians that want to be toy soldiers. I have been a soldier. I know what it is to kill. I know what it is to fight. I know what it is for a war. I know what it is to unite and to build. And that is the time now I will put on my political hat. These wannabe toy soldiers who are politicians who like to try to demonize persons, we are not going to go down that road. It is hope, and let me quickly add, that is what the Pfizer-Bud Accord was. That Pfizer-Bud Accord was written, hodgepodge. We will not compete with other seats that other members of the People's Partnership have. And that was it. There was nothing after. What I would like to have with the UNC and others, a proper alliance and a structure inclusive of a code of ethics, and proper grounds to ensure there's a degree of equity and mutual respect between political parties when we get in government.
Yeah, but things are going to take time, right, Gary? And of course, we do know that an election is going to be held next year. Do you have a vision at all, a cutoff point where you'd like to see things concretized so that you can move forward in this united way to fight the next general election?
Well, I think the priority will be there's so many different political parties, organizations, unions who have different ideas, ideologies, visions, principles. The main thing, that's why we have spent several months doing this. That is why you would have seen that COP and HOPE, when they spoke, they said, no, there's not an alliance with the UNC. They have meetings, which is good, and that is welcome. The more that the UNC speaks to other political parties, the more they will understand where we come from, where we stand. That is the main work. So we have now virtually completed drafts for MOU to ensure that we stay in line, we do not oppose each other, we do not try to demonize other political parties and individuals. That is what we'll have. There's going to be a time soon enough that the UNC will come to the bargaining table, not with Barry Padarat calling people and trying to line them out to do a photo op. That is cosmetic. The country is not buying into that. What they want to hear is, when it is you all work together, is it that we are going to be used and it's going to be a UNC government yet again? Or is it that there will be proper representation to ensure checks and balances to prevent a repeat of live sport, to prevent a repeat of a gang member building a police station and armed as a Minister of National Security going crazy? Can't understand how a lady could give a gang leader a bit. Those are the things they have a problem with me about, because I'm not going to condone corruption. I'm not going to condone wrongdoing. I've been fired twice because of that. And people criticize me for that. I am proud to say I was fired as a minister for standing up to say I will speak the truth. I am proud to say that I was fired as a commissioner because I refused to wilt under pressure to arrest political opponents. That is the type of leadership and politics the country wants to see. So that is how we intend to operate. And the UNC, I think the UNC wants to have a good government, but the country just wants to see that not a UNC government, but to ensure that there are checks and balances to prevent a repeat of 2010 to 2015. This MOU that we have is the start. It has been completed, and persons are starting to sign it. When that happens, we move on to the next step.
I want to talk a little bit about the political footing or the political position of your political party at this time. I think that when it was launched, it came in on a high. Because, of course, I think that people know about your performance as a police commissioner. So you had that interest at that time. Over the months, have you been visiting various communities, and what has the response been like?
So what I get everywhere I go, if I go in Massy stores, I go to Tobago Carnival, bombarded with hundreds of photographs, besides the fact that I'm good looking, but because of the fact that many people have this intention of, Gary, we needed to come back, and they keep coming back speaking about trying to reduce crime. There's much more of Gary Griffith just trying to reduce crime. That is what they remember me by. I will always go back to the point that 31 of the 47 US presidents had military service, and it's not because they just knew how to fight crime. From the Kennedys, the Reagans, the George Washington, the Lincolns, go on. It is because of our ability to lead and to not just to destroy and fight, but to unite. So my intention is to try to show to the country that this is not Gary Griffith returning to make you safe again. This is Gary Griffith returning to be part of a government to build and improve every arm of the public service. What I did as Commissioner of Police, we can do for every single thing in the police, in the public service, because of systems of good leadership, accountability, management, and measuring performance. You put those four principles, bring that together in that LAMP model, we can lift the standard of every arm of the public service. So you won't hear a situation that, for example, an attorney general will send something and to cabinet, it will be approved, and then blame a public servant for slipping it in a line and he didn't know about it. That is sheer madness. That is ignorance, stupidity at the highest level, to try to pass the buck, do a shaggy and say it wasn't me, blame it on the rain like Milli Vanilli. Those are the things that I intend to put into the next government, put in those type of systems. So that is what I've been getting. Let me quickly add again. The main concern that's going to be, let me go straight, let me cut to the chase. The UNC wants to have 21 seats. They want to have a UNC government. This is what happened in 2010. Dukaran flopped. He gave them the 21 seats, and as soon as the People's Partnership was never a coalition government. A coalition government is when you have a unification of votes in the lower house in a parliament that you need to bring together to be able to be in government, which is what happened. The only time we had a coalition government was in 1995, the 17-17-2, when Basil Pandey needed those 2 seats from A.N.R. Robinson. As soon as UNC got their 21 seats in parliament, they didn't need the COP's 6 seats and the TOP's 2 seats. So it was a UNC government, UNC making all the decisions, the policies, the plans, the programs, the appointments, the hiring and the firing. What we want to see is to make sure that there's a coalition government this time around. Because, yes, you have 300,000 votes, but we only got, say, 50,000. Let me go down to the lowest. That's 6-1. If it's 6-1 and you get 24 seats, it means that we should get at least 4 seats. Don't say that you have your 19, you want the 8 marginals that you won in 2010 in Trinidad, and we will get everything else. But my dad and mom didn't make a fool. Give us some degree of representation, the floating voters will buy it, and they will vote for us. We will win the marginal seats. We will get in government. But they want to know that there's representation from that bridge constituency to prevent that repeat of 2010. That is what I've been trying to explain to the UNC. When walking the ground, many persons want to have me in a government. But my point is to show that this is not Gary Griffith returning just to make Trinidad and Tobago safe again. This is Gary Griffith returning to transform Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah. But you think that that the people that you have been speaking to in the communities, they identify with what you are trying to do, and even with talk of an alliance and coalition, I think that there are going to be people who are going to be skeptical about it because of how it has not worked in the past.
Oh, definitely, and that is why that whole Barry calling people and for them, you line up here, you line up here, so the boss will go in the middle. It was shut down. That is not what the country wants to see. They do not want a cosmetic alliance. And it was a good try. Let me bring everybody together and see if we could sideline Gary. It was weighed, measured, and found wanting. The floating voters, the financiers, the business sector, the average citizen, the young people who never had a third choice under the age of 35. The last time they had a third choice was 17 years ago. So anyone from 18 to 35 never had that third choice. They're saying that is not what we need. So the majority of those persons are saying, if it is that you want us to give this unification of parties a third chance, we want to make sure that this is structured in such a way that is cemented. There's a foundation to prevent a repeat of 1986 and 2010. The vast majority of the country, I think, has admitted that it is probably the worst government the country has ever seen. But they are not going to turn around and say, okay, let's just vote for a UNC government. The UNC, probably it is a very good party. They have done so much for this country. But they have to accept the fact that based on the system of first past the post, the majority of the UNC supporters come from Central and South. They are not going to win the marginal seats without the input of the floating voters, the bridge constituency, and the political parties. And that is why I feel confident when I'm in an alliance with persons such as Timothy Amel-Smith and Hope and the COP, and there are others in the COP that will be joining shortly that you could lift up and say, these are the persons of integrity and respect that the country can see. That is what the UNC needs to bring back those floating voters. So this is mutual respect. We need you, you need us. But we are not just going to join together to beat the PNM to have a UNC government. So I have been speaking to many people. Unfortunately, the diehard PNM say, Gary, just come back as commissioner. The diehard UNC, Gary, you are UNC, just come back and join us. They're not seeing the bigger picture. That bridge constituency always dictates the results of the election. 1981, 1991, 2007, they went alone. They call it splitting the votes. I never know what that meant, but it ensured the PNM won by a larger margin. There was a unification in 86 and 2010. PNM were annihilated. The UNC goes on their own. They are always defeated in a three-horse race, 36 years. Look at the maths, look at the data, look at the political history. Let us get this thing right and work together as a team with a proper unification through a code of ethics and a system, not just as a cosmetic approach to bring in a UNC government by using those 100,000 floating voters. You want to have the support of the voters, there'll be no unification without representation. Yeah.
Gary, I just have about a few minutes again, but I want to take you in the direction of crime now. Of course, we have, this is something that we have been discussing for a number of years now when you were commissioner and, of course, you as political leader of the NTA now. We started off the year speaking about it. We are at the end of the year. As you look at or try to give us an assessment, a synopsis, as to how things went in Trinidad and Tobago, re-crime this year. What is your feeling this morning?
I still have a degree, and I ask the country, please understand, I have a degree of hope, not the political party, but the actual hope that this country can indeed turn around. It may not happen until after the general election, but I promise you, the same way we saw a massive transformation in 2013 and 2015 with the highest reduction in serious crime. You know, Kamala Prasad continues to boast, and rightfully so, of the massive things that would have been done under the People's Partnership. But it was the 2 years when I was minister, it was the highest reduction in serious crime in 31 years. We had the Rapid Response Unit, the dam and vessels for maritime security wall, the National Operations Center, and people felt safer. As Commissioner of Police, it was the highest reduction in violent crime in 17 years. We put an end to kidnapping, We were able to kick down those target persons from Inakli, Polynegoa 12 consecutive times. We were able to apprehend the kidnappers and rescue the victims. You only saw that in movies before 2019 and 2020. We put an end. The kidnappers didn't know what the heck Gary was doing. We had technology systems working closely with Roger Best from the SSA. We put an end to kidnapping, an end to home invasion, an end to extortion by putting in over 100 policies, plans, units, programs, technology. This can happen again. It is just to reboot and replug. This can happen and change in a few months. So I ask the country, it has indeed been the darkest hour, probably the darkest year that the country has ever endured. But I give you assurance as we go into the new year, there's a degree of hope, belief, and trust that we can and would make Trinidad and Tobago safe again.
Yeah, Gary, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for your contributions and more so your contribution over this year, specifically as it relates to Morning Edition. We do appreciate it. Compliments of the season to you and your family. And of course, we will speak again in the new year. Bye for now, sir.
Okay, bye.